This documentary is brought to you by National Hmong Graves Desecration Committee, an anti-grave desecration non-profit organization.
Hmong are an ancient group of people whose cultural tradition went as far back as 4,000 years. Their ancestors lived in a country known as Yellow River Kingdom in China. Their thousands of years derive from a civilization of the rice culture. It was rice that brought conflict of the Hmong and the Han Chinese. They fought for years and the Hmong were defeated. They migrated to southern China and later to Southeast Asia such as Vietnam, Laos, Thailand, and Burma. Hmong people are indigenous ethnic minority. They were known as dependable fighter to promote the great principle unity, friendship, peace, justice and human right. During the Vietnam War, Hmong people fought along with the United States and Thailand. It was to defend freedom of democracy in Southeast Asia region. Unfortunately in 1975, after United States pulled out from Vietnam, the Cold War eventually has changed the Hmong War into an unforgotten history. During that time 2/3 of Hmong population managed to escape and sought refuge to Thailand. While waiting in the refugee camp to settle in the third country such as United States, France, Canada, Australia and other country, Abbot Chan Roun Prar Charn extended a warm invitation offered many Hmong people from the refugee camp to settle in Wat Tarm Kra Bok as a sanctuary to resettle the Hmong refugees. According to testify by the Hmong refugees whom settled in Wat Tarm Kra Bok, Abbot Chan Roun Prar Charn issued passes, and provided transportation to relocate more than 15,000 Hmong refugees directly from the refugee camp to Wat Tarm Kra Bok. While the Hmong settlement in Wat Tarm Kra Bok, more than 2,000 Hmong refugees passed away. The deceased bodies were buried near the temple location. According to the testify of the deceased relative, they had sought permission from the abbot for all burial plots. After the United States accepted this wave of Hmong people as refugee to resettlement in the United States, majority of the Hmong have not reached the United States. The abbot ordered 3 foundations to exhume all the graves near the temple location. There were more than 900 graves were exhumed. The exhumation was shocked the Hmong people around the world when many video footages were surfacing internet that some groups of people in Thailand had conducted exhuming Hmong graves at Wat Tarm Kra Bok. Those people used knife to cut body parts and remove flashes from the bones. In some instance the dead bodies were boiled in a large pot in order to remove the flashes. A well-educated group of Hmong people around the world were grouped together. They established an organization called Hmong Graves Desecration Committee. This group working tirelessly to solve the graves issue. Document concern was written and sent to the Thai government. The Hmong Graves Desecration Committee shown proof to the Thai government that the first round of exhumation was conducted by Phouthit Phuvana Song Kro Foundation. That foundation had exhumed Hmong graves starting from October 26, 2005 to November 18, 2005. There were 206 men, 161 were women and 113 were children. The second round of exhumation was conducted by Buddha Dharma 31 Nakhon Foundation. This foundation started exhumation from November 25, 2005 to December 6, 2005. 211 graves were exhumed, of which 65 men and 109 were women and 37 were children. There were 3 petrified bodies that were unable to separate from the bones. The foundation people laid money at the gravesite and worship. Then the bodies were removed to an unknown location for unknown purposes. The Hmong Grave Desecration Committee had learned that the coffin that's still in good condition were also been removed. There were 3 reasons the abbot and the temple administration claimed that they ordered those foundations to exhume the Hmong graves because 1. the land would be built a religious facility. But according to witnesses whom visited the Wat Tarm Kerbak, there were no religious facilities being built. 2. The Hmong graves contaminated the water sources to the near villages. But there was no evidence to support their defense. If the sanitation was truly a concern, the flashes would have not been discarded on the grave's location. 3. Hmong did not have permission from the abbot or the Wat Tarm Kerbak administration to bury the deceased. But according to the relatives of the deceased, every grave had been permitted and approved by the abbot. After this grave desecration incident, the Hmong Graves Desecration Committee and many leaders throughout the world and in the United States had taken leadership action by appealing to the attention of the United States government and the United Nations for commencement of dialogue with the Royal Thai government to resolve this painful incident. The Hmong community argued that the Foundation's action clearly shown an act of discrimination and barrier treatment. Those actions were against the Hmong people and disgrace a cultural tradition and a religion, and violated the right of the family and the right to be free from discrimination. It also violated the right to manifest beliefs. On June 2, 2006, an official action was brought to stop the exhumation of the Hmong graves at Wat Tarm Kerbak. In September 2007, the first delegation was sent to Thailand for a fact-finding and to ask the government of Thailand for assistance. The committee seeks support from the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok to ask the abbot to find the 211 missing bodies.
จะเชื่อมโยงกับเรื่องของทางวัดได้หรือไม่อย่างไรอันนั้นไม่น่าจะเป็นเรื่องภาระของมูลนิธิท่านต้องติดต่อวัดเองว่าวัดเกียรติสามารถจัดที่ให้ท่านเก็บอัฐิตรงนี้ได้หรือไม่อย่างไรแต่ในช่วงที่เมื่อท่านดำเนินการพร้อมสัตย์ต้องการที่จะเคลื่อนอัฐิ
The delegation met with the government of Thailand and further met with the foundation that involved the exhumation. Shortly after the meeting, the foundation led the delegation to see the 211 bodies. The 211 bodies were found in a secret location. The bodies were stored underground with massive concrete container at the Helium Cemetery. From November 25 to December 6, 2007, a second delegation was sent to ask the abbot permission to return the 211 bodies back to the original burial location. Because of the culture tradition and the religious belief, when a person deceased and buried, the ground became his or her home. Hmong considered graveyard as a sacred site. When the graves were destroyed, there would cause a harm to the spirit and it could affect the living relative or affect the future generation.
ซึ่งเขามาหาความร่วมยืนมาหาความปกป้องและหลวงพ่อเองก็มีจิตใจเอื้ออาทรและปกป้องเขามาโดยตลอดแม้เขาจะสิ้นชีวิตไปแต่ดวงวิญญาณเขายังถือว่าหลวงพ่อ
The Hmong Graves Desecration Committee had continued to ask the foundation to 1. Return the 3 petrified bodies to bury at the original gravesite without cost. 2. Return the 691 bodies and bury at the original gravesite without cost. The Hmong Graves Desecration Committee worked to collaborate with United Nations, federal and state government, elected officials, and human rights organizations to resolve this graves issue. One of the foundation that exhumed the Hmong graves had not replied to any of their requests. The condition of the Hmong grave desecration exhumation remains in a critical issue to the relative of the deceased and still affect Hmong community worldwide. The issue remain unsolved and the committee had a great challenge ahead. As human being, the right to one culture, tradition and religion, and the right to be free both living and after death are often most important wishes for the Hmong people. Many Hmong people hope that people of other cultural and background can share their perspective view of life after death. Both physical body and spirit shall remain happy whether dead or alive. it is very important and necessary for the Hmong community worldwide to be free from spiritual harm. This condition thus will enhance the Hmong community and contributor members in whichever society they live.